So, hello everyone. Welcome to our podcast. And today I'm very excited to welcome SquarePeg. SquarePeg is a member of our community, and she made an interesting comment about the 88 or 4444 portal. And I thought it would be interesting to explore the concepts behind that monumental event that happened during the total solar eclipse and shed some light on the concepts, signs, and symbology. So let me introduce SquarePeg to you. SquarePeg is a seeker, sovereign autist, earth angel, and teacher who enjoys helping people understand where we are, how this place operates, and how to become sovereign creators of their own life experience. She uses her understanding of the fractal plus a form of predictive analytics she calls Isometrix, plus a song and movie tips from her inner transformer spirit guide, which is called Bumblebee, plus her natural ability to connect the dots and read between the lines in order to see the future. She's also a wisdom seeker. So I would like to start first with by having a look at the energies which were here during the total solar eclipse. All right, so during the total solar eclipse represents basically the divine union. And we had 5 planets plus the comet that aligned pretty much in a straight line, more or less, with the total solar eclipse. So part of these planets were Venus, which represents love, beauty, femininity, and relationships. We also had Mars, which represents passion, energy, aggression, and masculinity. We also had Saturn, which stands for discipline, responsibility, and limitations. We also had Mercury, which stands for communication, intellect, and adaptability. We also had Jupiter, which stands for expansion, optimism, and good fortune. And we also had the comet 12P, also named Pons Brooks, or the Devil's Comet. And the appearance of the comet is imbued with spiritual and astrological significance. So in Hinduism, the comets symbolize both good and evil, as well as disruption in the order and regularity of the world. And comets are seen as manifestations of the Hindu deity Ganesha, who is associated with both destruction and new beginnings. And it's also often viewed as a bad omen, portending the death of a king, important person, or natural calamities and civil unrest. But it also has auspicious meanings, which are linked to the celestial horse of the Vedic fire god Agni. And interesting is also that the solar eclipse happened in the constellation Gemini. And Gemini, of course, stands for duality and also the twin self or double self, both physically and spiritually. So I would like to hand over to SquarePeg, and her comment that she made was that the 22nd of April 2024 is also an 88 portal or 4444 portal, and it stands for Passover, which represents the masculine. But on that day, it's also Earth Day, which is the feminine. And it's again, this equals to the divine marriage or the sacred union. So I would like to hand it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I don't know too much about the divine marriage. I am just now learning about it as I fell into a twin flame journey last fall, totally threw my whole world upside down. So I'm just now learning about these things. I do event prediction based on Isometrix is a form of analytics that I can predict events. And I just recently realized that this coming Monday, tomorrow, is both Passover and Earth Day. And that's when I knew, okay, this is going to be a very important day, because that is the divine marriage. The Passover is the masculine and the Earth Day is the feminine. And I've seen a lot of my math pointing to major events happening this month. We've already had earthquakes and other things. Sort of, we're building up to a major calamity. I've been unable to determine exactly how much of that is spiritual and how much of it is going to be physical, like geophysical. I feel like one leads to the other. Like, this is the apocalypse where things are being revealed, and such horrific things are going to be revealed to people that is going to shock them to their core, and the emotional outcry of the horror of the things that they learn, that is going to cause geophysical calamities. This is how I feel that it operates. So one leads to the other. The apocalypse, the revealing, the unveiling, leads to physical ramifications in the real world, in the 3D world, you know, real. How real it is, I don't know. But I got to thinking about the angel of death, which is associated with Passover. And this is the Phoenix event, which happens on 138 interval cycle. It's 138 years, but you can also use it for months or weeks or days or even hours. Certain events will happen on these certain cycles of, like 108 is another one, 138 is one of them. But I've found patterns on just about every kind of number. But these are particularly special, the 137 and 138, the alpha and the omega of the Ouroboros. And we've been in this 137 for a very long time, and it's very, what I liken it to the archer drawing the bow. That's another theme that you've seen in headlines. Taylor Swift, the arrow swiftly flying, behold, I come swiftly. The swift quake happened on 7/22, which is Revelation 22:7 is, behold, I come quickly. And it's Taylor Swift, behold, I come swiftly. So the Phoenix is the 138. The angel of death comes over Passover for 3 days, and there's talk of a 3-day blackout, 3 days of darkness. And I noticed that the rules for eclipses and eating food were very similar to that of Passover. You can't hold food over past anything that you have cooked before the eclipse, you can't eat afterwards. Anything that you cook before Passover, you can't hold it overnight and eat it the next day. Same thing with manna. If you go back farther in the Bible, manna was the same thing. It didn't keep, you couldn't hold on to it, right? So this goes to trusting for your daily bread, not hoarding things, holding on to things, prepping. You know, the sparrow doesn't have need to store things up. It just knows that there's food tomorrow, right? So that's what I got to thinking about, the masculine side of tomorrow being Passover, and the angel of death being another way. The Phoenix and the angel of death are the same thing. It's a rebirth, you know, it's a dying and a rebirth. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because the great solar eclipse that happened over the US, they formed basically the letter Aleph, which is the first Hebrew letter of the alphabet, and Taf, which is the old last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And this basically equates to the alpha and the omega, so which is quite interesting.
Yes, and I have a video that I called it's like yin and yang and the singularity, and another video that's called the 137. And those two videos talk a lot more about my feelings about this before I realized that tomorrow was both Passover and Earth Day, because I feel like Earth Gaia is karmaing us. I don't know how to say that, but you know, we have abused the animals here, the biospheres all over the world. We've dabbled in nuclear war, you know, terrible, terrible things. And we're getting our karma for all of that as humanity. So the fact, when I realized that Passover and Earth Day were tomorrow, I just knew that, like, okay, so all the dates, all the date prediction that I have pointing to some big thing happening in April, I'm like, it could be tomorrow. I don't know. But a lot of spiritual things have been happening too. You and I talked before we started recording about the energy boosts and how that's affecting us, and the revelations that are coming to us just in downloads. People are just understanding things that they didn't understand before, and that is that energy spike of emotional impact of learning things is as strong as witnessing a terrible calamity, you know, like having an avalanche or a volcano go off or having an earthquake. Like those are very serious, cause emotional spikes, a terrorism attack or something. But learning the truth about things that you've suppressed or that you didn't know about, it can be equally as momentous an event. So you may not see it in the headlines, but it's happening to us anyway.
Yes, so many compare it to a birth, when the child is in the birth canal and you have pains, but at the end, you know, something beautiful comes out. So we should keep that in mind. As Mother Gaia has ascended and raised her frequency, she is now in a purging process. It's like when humans have a fever to purge or, you know, fight the disease. The same is happening now with Mother Gaia, and that's why I think we're going to see some earth changes happening. And it's already, I mean, started. You see more volcanic activity and maybe also earthquake activity. So we'll see, but always keep in mind, in the long term, something good will come out of it. So
Absolutely. And we have motorboats. We are not on rafts. Most people think they're on a raft and they got wind and they got waves and they don't know what's coming and they don't have any control over it. But the fact is, we have motorboats with steering wheels, and we can direct our own lives with our own intentions and actions and beliefs and vibrational, you know, just good vibes. We can direct ourselves. So we're not subject to all the stuff going on, the chaos in the world that most people feel that they are. So that's good to know.
yes, exactly. Now that the shift happened, you have like the karmic path or the karmic path. And if you're on the dharmic path and you're centered, then it's going to be a lot easier to handle what's going to be happening, because we're going to see really the worst and the best that humans can bring forth. And so it's going to be very challenging emotionally, but if you're centered, then it's going to be a lot easier. Whereas if you're on the karmic path, it's going to get very, very difficult and even more difficult to bear. So
Yes.
that's why it's important to do your inner work and yeah, be centered.
And start pitching sandbags out of your hot air balloon so you can get yourself out of the swamp. They talk about draining the swamp. There is no draining the swamp. The way you drain the swamp is lifting yourself up out of the swamp. The swamp is going to stay there. The swamp is what it is. It's not going anywhere, but we can pull ourselves up out of the swamp.
And you mentioned the mana, and it's interesting because the mana, the Israelites who were fleeing Egypt with Moses, and they were scared that they wouldn't have enough mana for the next day. So they gathered mana for 2 days. And what happened? the mana for the second day turned bad. It got worms, and the lesson is you just have to keep your faith. And that's also what we need to keep when the times are getting harder or the timelines are splitting more. And as the darkness gets darker, the light gets lighter. Or no, it's the other way. As the light shines brighter, the darkness is going to get scared and it's going to get also more dark. So
yeah, the timeline splitting, which is really fascinating because I've been doing this event prediction for almost 2 years now, and I started to notice the timeline splitting in the math that I was doing, which was really fascinating. I said, oh, there's like a happy timeline and a sad timeline for all of these different events I was looking at, which was really exciting to find. Oh yeah, I realized that I didn't mention this over here, that tomorrow is an 8-8 because the 2024 is an 8 and the 4 plus the 22, which is a master builder, there's another 8. So this is like mega building new things. You talked about the baby. I talk about an energetic baby because it might be a real baby, or it might be, you know, a business or whatever creative project you're working on, artwork or whatever, song, a symphony, your life symphony. So we're all birthing our energetic babies, whatever they are. So this is a really auspicious, like lots of good solid numbers here to build something new on.
So yeah, it's interesting because this is, as I said in my Gaia Ascension video, this is gonna be the date where the countdown basically starts, or the new count will start, and it coincides with Passover, which is one of the most important Jewish holidays, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and something else I realized with all the 8s and the 138, that if you take, because it's a mirror world, right? We've been living in an inverted world that is the mirror of the way things should be. Everything's upside down and mirrored, and there's lots of palindromes. Palindromes are everywhere in numbers and in words and mirrors, mirror world. So I took this 138 and I made the 1 into a mirror, and I squished it together towards the 1, right? So you've got a 38 on one side and a 38 on the other, with the 3 is backwards. Well, if you squish that together, you get 888 looking in the mirror, because the 2 3s make an 8. And now that was really fascinating to me because I'm looking at mitosis. Like, this is the splitting of the egg. You know, you start with a one cell and it divides into 2, which divides into 4, which divides into 8. This is represented by the 138. That's what that is. Now, I was calling it mitosis. It might be meiosis. I never could get meiosis and mitosis straight, even back in school when I was learning about it. I don't know. They're one or the other is represented here by this 138. This is the birthing of a new thing. This is fascinating. And how the 2s and the 8s are, 2 is B and 8 is H. So we'll have things like Herbert Humphrey, the vice president, and the guy on the submersible last year who died was Hamish Hardy, HH. I looked at Hungry Hippos, the board game. I look at songs and movies and toys, and I can predict events based on when those things were introduced into the collective conscious, or the collective conscious created those things and put them out, right? We are creating these things together. Like, how does this math work out? Like, who's doing all this? Someone's doing it. Well, no one's doing it. We are all collectively doing it. So if there's a major event that happens that causes a big emotional spike, it creates ripples forward and backward in time. So you'll see movies that are all about the same topic coming out in the same year. It's because it's attached to an event sometime that would cause an emotional spike, and that ripple made a bunch of movies on the same topic come out in the same year. It's really fascinating.
It's interesting because I just saw, I think one of the Greg Braden's last videos where he talks about these emotional spikes that could be measured in the Earth magnetic field. And he gave the example from 9/11, where you could clearly see that there was a big spike coinciding with that date. So very fascinating.
Before it happened. Yeah, that's what's really fascinating is that it happened, that they measured the spike like an hour or a half an hour before it happened.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yes.
And also interesting is the 8, if you put it on the side, it's like represents like the sacred union between the masculine and the feminine, but also duality or polarity. And I think it's very fitting because if we look at the timeline shift, the dharmic path is going to be the sacred union, and the karma path is going to be polarities who get stronger and stronger.
This is my my little demonstration. This is an 8, right? It's also an X. So this year is 2024. 24 is the letter X, right? So what happened like in January is kind of when I feel like it happened, is that this got flipped, right? So you don't want to end up back down here, right? This is the sand people. I call them the sand people. They end up back down here because they have more lessons to learn. But we're up here and we can get out. At some point this shattered and we are sailing out of here. So the folks who have more lessons to learn are going to end up back down, and this is going to seal up again, and it's going to, this is the Janus, the Gemini, the Saturn, the time place, right? Where you're stuck in time. And hopefully we will have, before this thing reforms, you know, we will have been able to launch our hot air balloons out of here to a higher vibrational place. Yeah, this is the Ouroboros, the infinity, and it's also 2 O's, right? I was talking about how this is a B and an 8, and it's also 2 O's like this. So Hoover, and yeah, I could go on like that forever. Sorry.
It's fascinating because in the universe there's no coincidences, but when you see everything like coming together like puzzle pieces and then it fits perfectly and it makes sense, it's just such beauty. And then you recognize, oh wow, there's something higher at play because it's just all in sync. It's like synchronicities, and I think that's also with the quickening that's happening. You're going to see more and more of these synchronicities getting aligning faster and faster and faster and revealing stuff.
Yes, I have been, and I believe that as well. And it's very important. What I've been telling my subscribers is it's really important for us to remain calm, because the normies, or you know, the masses of people, however you want to think about it, I don't like to call them NPCs. I think they're people just like we are, on a different path, you know, everyone's on their own path. But they're going to be wildly like shocked by the things that start happening. So those of us who kind of know what's going to happen, or we've already learned about these things that other folks are learning about, it's really important for us to remain calm and be a beacon of light and hope and anchor, you know. So everyone's like, oh, they're like this, you know, their whole world is tossed upside down and they don't know which way is up. We can be solid for those people.
Yes, exactly. Beautifully said. So yeah,
Yeah.
we need to show compassion and also reach out, because some of the people will be happy to get some help and others will just reject it. So with those, don't waste any time, but there's enough people who will be very happy to get some help and support, or, you know, shown a way out.
Yes, and I've been lamenting my ensnarement in the web all these years, you know, and I really want to get back out into the world. So I'm sort of finding ways, any kind of way that I can get my message, however, out into the world. So one of the things I want to do is set up like Lucy from Peanuts had like good advice or whatever, 5 cents, you know, and just like put myself out there with a little sign like, hey, you want to chat for 10 minutes? Let's chat. What do you got? Just just being you is really all we need to worry about doing right now. Protect your energy. And then when you're feeling strong, go out there and shine your light bright. And for now, anyway, don't worry as much about how you're going to pay the bills, if the house is a mess, if you're behind on homeschooling the kids or whatever. We really just want to be shining bright and remaining calm through this transitional period that's just so chaotic for most people.
So I see that you also have the Year of the Wood Dragon on your board. So I don't know,
Yeah,
can you maybe give us some explanation or shed some light there?
sure. I noticed last year on St. George's Day that there was a wood dragon burning ritual at Disneyland or World. I don't remember which is which, Disneyland or World. I'm pretty sure it was the one in California. Right after midnight, it was right into St. George's Day on 4/23. A wooden dragon caught fire at Disney. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Next year is the year of the wood dragon. How far away is that? And it was 42 weeks exactly. And when I looked up the gestation period of a person, there was debate whether it was 40 weeks or 42 weeks. And I was like, well, 42 weeks. So what are we gestating here? What are they, what seed did they plant that they wanted to birth in 42 weeks when at the start of the wood dragon, right? And so I've just been keeping track of it in the back of my mind all this time. And I don't know what I was going to say except that it's 366 days, 365 days because of the leap year till tomorrow. From this event to tomorrow is just 365 days.
So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening tomorrow.
Yes, I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen tomorrow. And I've done what I'll do is I'll take a theme like sometimes it's hard. I can't do just like earthquakes because there's too many of them. So I have to narrow it down to a location. So I'll look at earthquakes in Seattle, right? And then I can predict when the next one is going to happen based on when previous ones happened. So I've done this with so many different topics and had so many of them land in April of this year. Like earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis and blackouts and like, wow, that's like everything. And I really do feel like there's going to be something that halts everything. The trafficking, in order to stop the trafficking, all traffic has to stop. And we've seen that with the Suez Canal getting blocked and boats crashing into bridges, which is something I predicted and has happened. These are all leading up to an abrupt stopping of all transportation. And the reason for that is to stop the trafficking. The traffic and the trafficking are going to stop at the same time. And I think that that's because we're going to find out, humanity is going to find out how bad the trafficking really is. And that emotional outcry is going to stop traffic, literally. So I do see these events happening. Whether or not how it goes down remains to be seen. Is it going to be a solar flare? Is it going to be a virus in the internet? Are they actually going to lose power? Is it going to be a tornado that takes out a power station? You know, I don't know how it's going to happen. I can just see that it is going to happen. And so the reason I tell people this is not to scare anyone, but just to be prepared. Like if we know this is going to happen, then it won't be as a shock to us when it does happen. And we know that it's happening for a purpose, and that is to rescue the children. And then we are almost looking forward to it, you know, like it's going to be okay. This is going to lead us to something really good on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I share these things not to scare people, but to actually just illuminate and bring hope, actually. People like to say that I'm trying to be a fear monger, and I'm really not. I'm actively trying not to scare people.
Yes, I mean, there's going to be shocking events, but it's also to wake us up. So that's the
Hmm?
purpose of it. So without it, we would just slumber on. So we're going to need that.
Everything that's built on a false foundation is crumbling, and that's a good thing. But people have become so dependent on those things that it's going to be difficult. And that's all it is to it, but we'll be better for it on the other side. But this includes things like Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. Those are lies. And everything that's false, everything built on a false foundation and is just a lie is coming apart. So that doesn't mean Christmas is going away. It doesn't mean that people can't have a, you know, a nice family Christmas that means something, but all the fake stuff that comes along with it, the trappings and whatnot, that part is going to disappear. And that's going to leave a beautiful gem in the center.
Yes. Should we dive into the symbols and symbology of what we discussed and what you presented on your board?
Sure. Like,
So I would like to start maybe with Passover, which is a representation for the masculine.
hmm?
And as I said before, it's one of the most important religious festivals in the Jewish or God's calendar. And the themes are liberation and divine intervention, but also celebrating freedom and deliverance. So it's very interesting that these keywords are in there. And further on, it says, remember the hardships and the miraculous events, and have a sense of gratitude and respect for their struggles and faith. So we will have struggles and we will be needing faith. But it's also a time for reflection on the oppression and the importance of freedom and human dignity. So I find this very interesting that if you say traffic is going to come to a standstill, like during Corona, people will have time to reflect about the importance of freedom and the human dignity and all the falsehoods that is around us. So this is I found it very interesting, fascinating.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful time.
And then the next one was Earth Day. And here, basically, we celebrate and protect the Earth's natural environment. And we are Earth. And if we pollute the water with microplastic, which is really everywhere by now, that it even goes into our brains, and we see the spraying of chemicals like in Dubai to create or alter the weather. In the end, we're just poisoning us because we are Earth. And I think a lot of people are awakening also to this. And so Earth Day, Earth is also associated with nurturing and sustenance qualities. And then we also had the divine marriage, which is basically the union, the balanced union of the masculine and the feminine. And it is the pathway to wholeness or enlightenment, which is very interesting too. And then we also have the angel of death and the phoenix. And the phoenix really symbolizes renewal and rebirth. But it also comes with destruction of the old before the renewal or the rebirth.
You know, I don't think I finished a sentence way back. I was talking about the Archer and the 137 about this high tension time this anticipation, you know, where it just feels like any minute now something's gonna bust. That's the 137 time, you know, this where all the way stretched out right before the arrows get launched. And so I feel like we've all been launched at this point. But there was a long period of time where it just felt agonizing that we were just waiting, come on already. And it still kind of feels that way, but I definitely feel the momentum has picked up. Like I'm starting to feel like we're headed into something and not stuck in this anticipation mode anymore. And
Yeah.
Earth Day, it reminds me of Rachel Carson. Rachel Carson died 60 years ago. This month? Next month? I can't remember, but very, very right around now, 60 years ago. And 60-year cycles are huge. Lots of things happen in 60-year cycles. So she died in Silver Springs, Maryland. So you'll see lots of things about silver are popping up. And Springs. Taylor Swift is from another place called Springs, somewhere in West Reading. They're actually right. Rachel Carson and Taylor Swift were born very close to each other, actually, which I find interesting because Taylor Swift is in the news and we're coming up on this Earth Day right around the 60th anniversary of Rachel Carson's death. She wrote Silent Spring about the poisoning of Gaia, right? So that's why I'm seeing a big thing with Earth Day this year because of this 60 years to Rachel Carson. And they had all those birds that died in Chicago last October. So there's something, I've been watching this bird thing for 2 years now. Birds are everywhere. In every headline, you can find a bird. It's bizarre. But all those birds died in Chicago after they did the emergency broadcast alert testing on 10/4. The very next morning, they found 961 birds dead on the streets in Chicago. So I'm feeling like there's either a burst from the sun or some sort of a frequency, something that's going to happen. That was a precursory ripple event to something that's going to happen along the same lines. Yeah. And it could bring birds out of the sky. Like I would not, if anybody's planning on flying tomorrow, I wouldn't. I would not get in a plane tomorrow to save no. You couldn't pay me enough money to get on a plane tomorrow is what I'm saying.
Interesting.
But I don't fly. I'm not a flyer anyway, so it's not really saying much. But
Should we delve into the numerology? Or do you
sure, yeah.
have anything else that you want to mention from your board?
I was going to talk a little bit about this event down here that I predicted that just happened because it's got a cool marriage connection in it.
All right, go ahead.
I might need to tilt my camera, so plug your ears. There we go. So there was the toxic train wreck in East Palestine, Ohio. Now there's a pale stone in here, is the white stone. So this is from the Bible when you get the white stone with your name on it. Hold on, I gotta let my cat in. Thanks, sorry.
No worries.
So that was in Ohio on February 3rd of 2023, right? So that was 2323. If you add 223 days to it, it comes to September 14th, where just down the road from me was another hazmat train incident. And this is the place is called Bailey Yard. It's the largest railroad switching yard in the world. So if I add another 223 days on there to this date on September 14th, it comes to Wednesday, 4/24. If I add 424 days onto the East Palestine, Ohio train wreck, it comes to 4/2. So this was April 2nd of 2024. right in between these on 414, there was a train wreck. And I said in my video that I posted on March 21st that it would be somewhere in the plains and there would be a hazmat train wreck in the plains between the 2nd and the 24th of April. And it happened on 414. It was not hazmat. And this is why I think that this is a precursory ripple event, that there is still another to come that will be more hazmat-y, more dangerous like the other two were. Because this was a derailment, but it was grains. No one was injured. It was not toxic. It was just a mess to clean up, right? So I think there's another one coming, but what I thought it was interesting is this Chapel, Nebraska. So there is a marriage reference in this headline during this time period. Just perfectly there for me to notice it. You know, like, of course, I'm going to notice that. And it happened on 414, and 414 is 138 times 3. This is a Phoenix number here, 414. So that's cool. If you add 8 days on, it comes to tomorrow, 422, Passover and Earth Day.
Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating. Thank you so much. That's really interesting.
It is, isn't
Yeah.
it? And I've done, this is a really easy one. This is a very simple one. I've done mega complicated ones that pull in lots of different events and they all point to the same year or even the same month. It's really fascinating. And I've had about 3 dozen, I think, at this point, predictions come true. So, and it's not like I'm just finding the math. The math is there. I'm just finding it. It's not like I'm predicting it. I'm just finding the math, you know? So, and I teach it for free on my channel. So if anybody is interested in learning, they just go to my YouTube channel and there's all the videos showing exactly how I do it.
Fascinating. Thank you. So maybe
Sure.
let's dive into the numerology.
Yeah.
So let's dive because tomorrow it's also a 4444 portal. And so it started in beginning of April with the 444 portal, and then we had the 88 portal during the solar eclipse. And tomorrow it's an 88 portal and the 444 portal. So it's quite fascinating. It was fascinating. So let's have a look what 4 means in tarot. So the number, it's the number of Earth, humanity, and form. It represents the home, creating a place with strong foundations. It also suggests a quiet place to recharge and connect with the inner self. It is the number of completion and beginning something new. It symbolizes the 4 directions and path of the Native American medicine wheel and the 4 corners of the Wheel of Fortune, as well as the 4 directions or 4 corners of the earth, 4 seasons, 4 elements, 4 phases of the moon, 4 basic geometric figures, and the 4 archangels. And there's also many more. And 4 represents completion and starting something new from a strong foundation. And the solid foundation are created from the balanced energy. And it holds sacred space within its foundation for dreams and visions to manifest. So it's beautiful with, it really aligns with what we have been talking about. So it's like another of these wow moments.
Yeah. Right.
And
And it's very cool when you see something from one perspective and then you'll listen to someone who does something you know nothing about. Like I'm really not very good with astrology. I can't remember all the planets and constellations, but I will watch an astrologer who says almost the exact same thing that I was seeing through what I do. Like 2 totally different disciplines, but they see the exact same things. It's so beautiful. Like it's very a beautiful poem. We live in a beautiful poem. Or a beautiful song.
yes, exactly. So 4 is in tarot is also the emperor. And the emperor stands for personal power, leadership, but also symbolizes protection, strong foundations, and accomplishments, bringing strength, vitality, and vision to new projects. And interestingly, the 4th house of the zodiac is Cancer, and its keywords is I feel. And it represents the principle of the Divine Mother, Mother Nature, the moon, soul memory, and cosmic wisdom. And it also represents an open to approach stuff with an open heart and expanded consciousness and responsibility to the earth, environment, and humanity. And it also brings manifestation and vision for the future. And it brings completion and celebration, reflection and meditation, introspection and healing, but also personal and new vision. Together, they form a strong foundation to create.
Yeah.
So I found this quite interesting that it aligns, with what we talked about, and it also gives some hints for our viewers, what to do during those times when if there still stand comes, or if we have to slow down a little bit, then it's good to go forward with these keywords if that resonates with you, of course. So let's move on to 8. 8 in tarot represents the law, as above, so below. And it symbolizes the evolution of ever becoming. It's mixing up the 2 realms of spirit and matter. And it's also associated with rebirth and new beginnings, and signaling a time to align your will with your destiny. And it's the number of karma, free will, and the law of cause and effect. It's the breathing in of spirit and breathing out of your karma, bringing your being, your soul in balance with the divine. So this is really beautiful because it really aligns with the shift and the split and what we need to do to get on the dharmic path. So before you are allowed to pass through the portal of rebirth or initiation, you have to pay the piper for unclaimed debts. The toll to confront the darkest parts of yourself is spiritual strength. Only the purest of heart and mind can pass by the dweller. So it's interesting that the Egyptians were waving the heart, because that's exactly it. If you have a pure heart, you can go on the dharmic path and you will be able to catch one of these ascension waves, which will be coming.
Right. If it says light as a feather. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Like weighing the heart against a feather? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's beautiful.
And it's also a gateway to yet another level of spiritual understanding and dying to the old and awakening to the higher self. It's one coming into an initiation. And 8 symbolizes the creative, rational mind, channeling cosmic energy and tapping into the deep well of inner wisdom. It's the logical thinking mind coming into balance with the mystical state of intuition and cosmic intelligence bringing into new insights. So that was the number 8. Now let's have a look. 8 is also strength in tarot. And let's have a look what the keywords are here. So it's about discovering your inner truth and courage to face your fears, weaknesses, and blocks with spiritual stamina. Address the challenges with purity, faith, love, and courage. And the spiritual strength deepens. So this is really beautiful about what we said about the hardships that are coming, the earth changes, and it fits beautifully within that. And the 8th house of the zodiac is Scorpio, and the keywords is I desire. So it represents death and rebirth, the journey of the soul working through the depths of your personal darkness, choosing the right desire over the misguided desires. So this is really yeah, recognizing the falsehoods as we discussed it. And transforming darkness into light. It's a deep wanting for a higher unfoldment of love and spiritual evolution. And the number 8 is also walking the labyrinth of life and spirit, coming to the center, communing with the divine, being called to a higher purpose, and giving you a jolt of divine inspiration. It's also about seeking a higher truth in your heart, attention to your blocks and restricted energy that holds you back from your destiny. It's also about awakening you to your sacred work and a breakthrough to higher consciousness. So that's really beautiful. And the 88 or 44, it's just an amplification of what we just talked about. So it's going to be even stronger, these keywords that we mentioned. So I found it very interesting that these cards align so beautifully.
Yeah, the same message across multiple disciplines.
And if we
Yeah,
look
and
to
there's the
2,
big thing about the throat chakra right now, to stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself and for those who cannot speak for themselves, to not tolerate lies and deception and cheating and stealing and all that stuff anymore. Stuff that we've just, to get along, to be polite, not to cause a fuss. That's not, we don't need to do that anymore. Now is the time to stand up for what's right and speak it out.
yes, I think we're going to see that getting stronger. That people
Good news.
say,
Awesome.
I can't take it anymore. This is not right. I don't want this.
It's that movie Network, you know, I'm mad as heck and I'm not going to take it anymore.
So let's have a look at the number 2. Because the number 2, it's about polarity, which is quite interesting because this is going to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
So
As this divide gets dividier. Mm-hmm.
So 2 is first about balancing the dualities in yourself, and it's exploring your inner and outer dualities, the feminine and masculine aspects of your light, dark sides, and your ideas and goals, your fears and strength. And 2 brings action of integration and unification of opposing energies. And it's also the number of the High Priestess, and this is all about intuition and the veil, basically. So moving between the two worlds. And it's a balance between the positive and the negative forces of the self, and reminding one to become centered and to listen to your inner voice or intuition. And the second house of the zodiac is Taurus, and the keyword is I want. And it represents feminine earth that is stable, strong, sensual, and loyal. And it's also loving material things, but also being connected to spirit. And his mission is to find true inner value and live it in the material world. So basically, really, bringing heaven on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful and very fitting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited because the energy since Mother Gaia ascended are really high, and you can feel it. And yesterday, found out that all the sacred sites, their frequency are just have skyrocketed. They're together with Mother Gaia, and so if you visit ancient sacred sites, you will feel that because it's not just a little boost. I mean, it's a massive, massive boost. I mean, if we want to compare it, if you look at the what is it? The Great Pyramid, I think. No, the Sphinx had 200 million Bovis units, and now it's over 111 billion Bovis units. So it's a massive increase. So if you go to these ancient sites, I'm sure you will have you will feel it physically and spiritually. So that's very interesting. And if you're interested to know more about the frequencies, I also have released my Life Force, the basics, and that's where I talk about the frequency and the Bovis units. So if you're interested, you
Okay,
can
cool.
listen to that. But it's a very exciting times, and energetically, there's definitely something going on.
Yeah.
And yeah,
have a household I have a household puzzle that I think might be related to this, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. I have rechargeable batteries. This is a double A rechargeable battery. And I have two in my camera, and they were dead the other day. And I had just replaced them, and I hadn't hardly used the camera, and my batteries were dead. And I was like, that's weird. So I went to the box to pull out. I have a whole bunch of them that are all charged up and ready to go. Pulled out two, put them in the camera, and they were dead. The whole box. They were all had been charged. The whole box were dead. I had to get non-rechargeable batteries to put in my camera, and it took like 12 hours to charge up. They were fully dead, just completely dead. What took all the juice out of my batteries?
well, I mean, not only Mother Gaia is active or has, raised the frequency, but the sun is also
Hmm?
acting up. So this is also an aspect that influences us here on Earth. So there's a lot
It's
going on, that's
interesting,
for
huh?
sure.
All my batteries went dead. I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
And this could be related to the sun.
Yeah.
It's,
And I've said, like, you know, we're going to call on the sun to stop the traffic, to rescue the children. But I've also said that we are the ones who have come to set the captives free. We need to set the captives free, right? So are we talking about the SUN or the SON? And we have to be careful about savior thinking, like, boy, it'll be really easy to get off of this social media that I'm addicted to if the sun just wipes it out for me, and then I don't have to make the hard decision myself. I don't have to get rid of what doesn't serve me anymore. It's going to be taken away, and someone is going to do that hard thing for me, you know? So I really feel like if it's time for you to stop doing something, you need to do it yourself. Do the hard work yourself, and don't depend on any kind of savior at all, whether it's the SUN or the SON or anybody in between to rescue you from something. We are the rescuers. 1977, The Rescuers. Really cute movie.
yes, that's important. I mean, we really need to do our inner work.
Mhm.
That's the only way you can basically catch those ascension waves and get on the dharmic path.
Mhm.
That's gonna be your only hope to get away, or to have a
This time around, anyway.
yeah. So yeah, and it's never been easier than now because all the energies from Mother Gaia and the sun is really helping us. So
There's yes, there's updrafts right now, so take advantage of them. Yeah,
yes, and but we need to do the shadow work and be willing to
yeah.
do the shadow work, and the shadow work is not going to be pleasant. So it's a hard work, but it's going to be worth it because the universe works according to the holy law, and it has nothing to do with reward and punishment. So if you do your inner work, then the law is going to work in your favor because you've completed the work you needed to do. So I encourage you to approach these times, with love, compassion,
And a
trust,
sense of adventure.
faith, and be also excited because these changes are necessary. What is going to start crumbling is the old structures that are not serving us anymore. It's the same that when you're in your dark night of the soul, you let go of everything that is not serving you anymore. And after that, you rebirth a new being, your new self. And the same is going to happen here on planet Earth. So keep that in mind.
As within, so without. Yes.
Exactly. And
Oh, I forgot. I was gonna ask you a question about that. I lost it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, we need to be open and also do do your work. That's how you can help the best the planet and others, is by being centered and shining your light, because you raise the vibration around you just by being. That's all you
Yeah.
need to do. It's just be, and be centered and shine your light. And yeah, show compassion because it's going to be a difficult time. And we will find out that we depend on each other to get through the tough times. And that it's easier if, we're in unity and than in separation. But so this is basically my message I have for you.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you for participating, and thank you so much for bringing your puzzle pieces, to the puzzle. And I found it very interesting to look through these concept signs and symbology, because, as you mentioned, there's different channels or different information channels which basically all talk about the same, be it astrology, channeler, or now the numbers and the tarot. And it's just like there's no coincidence in the universe. It's just synchronicities. And uh, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, then you notice that these are synchronicities, and they're going to be happening more and more, faster and faster. And it's here to motivate us to do the inner work. And it's a very rewarding path once you get there. And yeah, it's beautiful. So I invite you to don't give in to fear, because fear really gets you back into low vibration. And don't think too much about tomorrow or the past. Be in the present.
It's a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Yeah,
Today.
just the present. That's the only thing that is real. It's the now.
That's right.
Yeah. So Squarepeck, thank you so much for agreeing to do the podcast, for giving your time and your wisdom. And I'm sending you my blessings, much love, and may peace be with you.
Danke sehr, Sie auch.
Yeah. Bye.
You're amazing.
Thank you. You too.